refresh yourself, come to here. Have you guys begin your homework?
No.
What homework?
You know.
Okay.
I have other homework to do.
I gotta drop out.
Priority.
I have a question.
Sure, we can discuss after class. Okay. It's okay if you don't begin that now, but you probably want to do that as soon as you can, right? Because that's will take you some time to do that. Yeah. You don't need to write on hand. In fact, you don't need to give me so details. We can discuss. You don't need to give me each single step. For example, you just plug in the B and A of a linear triangle. You say this sum together T, and keep just one middle step, and get the final result will be an A. I don't need to see like 10 middle steps. That's okay. Well, I do require you to show the middle step. For example, if you use explain smoothing, right? You make the forecast equal to alpha, that's right, plus beta A minus T, something like that. I do need to show you what is alpha, like 0.2 plus 0.3, something minus 80, and get the results. So that's something I want you to show. Well, for the linear triangle or linear regression, well, you use some formula to calculate summation E, summation Y, blah, 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 summation T squared, something like that. You first need to write down the formula in your homework, and I only require one middle step. How you plug this number, they mean, right? 1 plus 2 will just give me like 55, something like that. You add them together, times something, and then final results, 7.5. That should be enough. Okay, is it clear? So I don't need to show, okay. Oh, you first plug T equal to 1 plus 2, and then second step add them together 55, and then, that's, you feel tedious, I also feel, it's not worth it for you to write all the middle step, right? Just one, maybe two, right? First, I need to know the formula used. You can't tell me, okay, use some Excel templates or use some software. Well, that's not the purpose for the homework, right? I need to understand, okay, which formula use, and give me the middle step. Because in your appendix, they have the final answer. I can tell you now. Yeah. In your appendix, they have a final answer for questions. Yeah, in your textbook. So you can refer to the appendix. Yeah, but that's only the final answer. Tell me, okay, 7.5 is a slope. Well, you won't get any point if you say, okay, that's 7.5. I need to know how do you get 7.5. But it's good for you to double check. When you get the results, you check the appendix. If the results are not match, you probably did something wrong. Okay, then we can talk. It's good? Do you know that appendix has the answer?
Yeah.
Oh, you know that. Okay. Okay, good. Okay, let me know if you have any questions about the homework. Okay. So today we'll begin our journey of the third chapter of this class, chapter 5. We'll skip chapter 4, and after chapter 5, we can say we finish. We finished the first module of this class, which is chapter 1, 3, and 5. Then you have all the knowledge you need for the homework 1 and also for the exam 1. Now, here is the learning objective for this chapter. This chapter we're talking about capacity planning. What is capacity planning first? I want to ask you guys, in your opinion, what is capacity planning? Capacity planning. What is that?
Scheduling.
No, really. Scheduling can be related, strongly related, but it's not exact capacity planning. When we talk about capacity of a company, what does this mean?
How much they can make?
How much?
The production.
Inventory? 20 people inventory? No. How much of what? How much? No way. Outputs. Yeah, outputs. Well, you don't write this out. Outputs related. Outputs is the results of your capacity planning and then some other parameters. But capacity planning is not your plan output. It's plan about your resource. Clear? You have the resource, you can get output. For example, right? When you talk about capacity, you do talk about people. How many people you have? Right? How many labor you have? Right? Labor hours. Right? Well, not just people. skilled worker. You probably need some, I don't know, MBA degree students or no student person to handle this specific task, right? You have other people, it's not enough. Machine, okay, how many machines you have? How advanced of your machines, right? And also talking about the size of your warehouse. You have a machine, you have a people, your size is not enough, right? These are all related to capacity. Capacity will tell us is the constraints of our outputs. Well, output it can be much lower than our capacity, right? You have a huge capacity, but you say, I'm so lazy, I don't want to work a single minute today. Well, you don't have any output. That's okay, right? But you have the capacity to work like 8, 12 hours per day, do your homework or work in some company, right? That's your capacity. But your outputs, upper ceiling is your capacity. But you not necessarily reach this upper ceiling. So that's a capacity plan. Before we can produce anything, we need to first fix our capacity. Oh, that's a capacity plan. So we are learning in this chapter why it's so important. Because it determines our outputs, right? And other reasons. Different ways to define and measure capacity. And we also describe the determinants of effective capacity. Also in this chapter discuss the major considerations related to develop the capacity alternative different ways. Also, we will describe the approach that's useful to evaluate different capacity method. For example, if we find, okay, if we are doing the manufacturing, we find, okay, our demand is increasing. Our current output rate is not enough for our customer. For example, now we only output 1,000 units per day, and our demand is 1,200. So it's a mismatch. And we know that we have to increase our capacity. But there's so many different ways you can increase your capacity to from 1,000 to 1,200 to match your demand. Could you give me some example of what's the ways you think about can increase capacity to match the increased demand? If you are in manufacturing, right, producing something, what you can do?
Longer opening hours, running the machines for longer.
Running machine for longer time. If you have the,
So if you usually work from 8 to 5, we'll work from 8 to 6.
yeah, if you have the machine still have available time, right? That's you can run the machine longer. Right? Anything else?
Hire more skilled workers.
Hire more people, right? Or maybe just assign extra working hour for the current people, right? Well, it's kind of machine's problem, right? For example, but even you run the machine longer, you still need people to handle. Maybe 8 to 5, or every people go back to home, right? This machine, they can't run by themselves, right? People. Anything else you can do? Machine, people. What else? Dylan?
You can do like car places do. Like you only do one specific task, so and it goes down the line.
So you want to.
So everybody does that one specific task, and it goes.
So you want to change the job design. That's
Yeah.
what you mean. You want to change the job design to improve the working efficiency.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's
So
definitely.
so you do that one thing all day, you get really good at it, you go fast.
That's good. Yeah, in fact, we'll talk about that. You change the job design and it can improve your efficiency. You don't need to invest on people or machine. It can automatically increase your capacity. Very good. Anything else? Any method else? Want to increase your capacity?
You can outsource part of it, so that
Very good.
you don't have to do it.
Yeah. Jennifer, man, the last choice. Maybe those many companies the first choice. Outsourcing, right? Well, okay. Either they have their own constraint. They can't buy new machine or run machine for longer time. They can't by the labor union, whatever reason, they can't give an extra hour. They just do outsourcing. Well, have some people who do that additional 200 units per day for us, right? So that's always a choice. Right? We'll discuss that different choice in this chapter, right? To see which is the best choice for you. There's some qualitative discussion, like we have just brainstormed. And also we will introduce some quantitative model to select the best method by analyze the cost. Okay. This chapter, capacity. By definition, the capacity is the upper limit or ceiling on the load that an operation unit can handle. Basically, that's the output rate. My understanding is output rate, the maximum output rate. Capacity includes machine, like equipment, not just machine, okay. Equipment, space, right? And also employee skill. So employee skill depends on how many employees you have. and the quality of your employee, right? So that's important because we know some people they can work as well, one very good employee can be counted as 2 employees. Some other employee maybe they're not so good or need some training. Strategic capacity planning. I think strategic is a magic word in English, my understanding, right? Anything you add a strategic, it's become magic, right? Strategic plan. Well, I think it's just a plan, but it's strategic plan. So it means you do plan smartly, collaboratively, or cooperate with others, think long term. Oh, that's my understanding. So you add this magic word. So, well, that's when you do promote your business, you can always say, I have a strategic plan, I have a strategic market plan, I have a strategic source for you, strategic idea. That's, well, that's you mean you have to think very carefully. The goal for this strategic capacity plan is to achieve a match between the long-term supply capability of an organization and the predicted level of long-term demand. So you can see after 1 month, well, we are still in the slides. If you still remember, in the first chapter, supply versus demand, right? Our goal is always here, in the slides of chapter 1. Match the supply with the demand. But we have discussed from first week, right? In most situations, we can't match the supply with demand, especially except my silly suggestion say hold nothing and you still sell these products. You have 0 demand and 0 supply. But in most situations, when we do the serious business, that's our goal, supply equal to demand, but we'll never reach that. Okay, that's why we introduced chapter 3, forecasting, right? We want to have a perfect demand forecast. Then we can hopefully match supply with demand. We've discussed, right? Even you have perfect forecasting, sometimes you still can't match the supply with demand. Why? Let's say you have 100% accurate forecast. Why sometimes you still can't match the supply with demand? Your forecast is perfect. Still possible? You can't match the supply with demand?
Too much of a human element. People change their minds.
People change them. Let's say this demand doesn't change. The demand passes, let's say 100 units tomorrow. I have a perfect forecast. That is really happen. 100 units demand. John?
I mean, I have the capacity to produce that much.
Yeah, capacity. For example, something like labor. You don't have labor, right? You don't have cashier. If you don't have cashier, they wait too long. They say, okay, I will switch the store. Inventory, right? We have discussed. Transportation, a lot of things we discussed. So chapter 3 is very important, forecast. Because without good forecast, we can't move further for chapter 5 or later chapter. But what is most important, we have discussed, it doesn't create value by itself, forecast. Until you can use this number in a correct way. Implement, collaborate to around this forecast number, if it's a good number. Every other department, you should adjust yourself to make sure you match this number, right? To realize this goal, supply very close to demand. But the capacity a little bit different. What we have talked about is forecasting. It's still a match between the supply and the demand, but pay attention here. Long term. Long term. In forecasting, I have emphasized several times, we want to use a short-term horizon of the forecasting. Why? Quick review. Why we want to use short-term forecast?
More accurate.
Yeah, automatically, right? It's much more accurate than long-term forecast. You tell me to make the forecast of the weather 1 week later, I have no idea, but I can tell you 1 minute later. Well, that's even for me, right? A silly weatherman can tell you that. But, well, if you are very good at, you are a really weatherman, you still can't get very good forecast 1 month later. It's really hard, right? So, demand is the same. You probably get some idea for next year, next 5 years, the Walmart demand in Pembroke. You probably get some idea because you can think about, you can analyze the UNCP's enrollments increase and also do some demographic analysis, the trend, and you can kind of know, okay, maybe it's increasing for the Walmart in Pembroke, but how much increase? It's really hard. Let's say student increase 20%. Well, is Walmart increase the same 20%? We don't know. Maybe larger than, maybe lower than. We don't know, right? So it's really extremely hard to get a long-term good forecasting. But for capacity, we do need that. We do need that. Our goal for capacity planning is to match for long-term. Why is the long-term is our goal for capacity planning? Why is no short-term? We know short-term we have a better predictor demand. Why? Why we need long-term? Think about capacity, right? equipment, space, employer, that's major component of capacity. Why is a long term?
Expensive.
Basically, it's expensive and also something hard to change in the short term. No matter how much money you have, it's really hard. For example, machine, right? Well, you say I have $1 billion. We get a machine. No, well, probably, well, like iPhone 7, you still have to wait. Well, right? People is the same. It can be very expensive, and you don't have that people. Well, you can't have a short-term capacity change. Well, many companies implements the project now want to change the capacity in short term. That's a trend, but still, well, it's really hard to change. Space, right? It's the same thing, right? You have the increase. You tell me, okay, the demand will increase a lot in Walmart. All space have the limitation of the Walmart for light, right? So that's the reason our goal for capacity is long term. When we talk long term is by years, sometimes decades. So that's the capacity plan. It's not like next month or like 3 months. No. When we talk about capacity plan, usually it's 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. It's really a long-term decision. And we have discussed in last chapter, long-term forecasting, right? Predict level of long-term demand is extremely hard. So it doesn't require you guys like very accuracy. But we can still use some method we have introduced last chapter to get a long-term forecasting. Because that's the first step. But you don't have the long-term forecasting demand, you can't plan your supply parts, your capacity. Right? Okay, if you have overcapacity, of course you have very high operation costs. Under capacity, the problem is lose your customer, right? Unsatisfied customer. So it is a very important decision, and it's a very hard decision because it involves a long-term forecasting and a long-term plan. We have to answer some key questions for our capacity planning. First, what kind of capacity is needed? Let's give an example, right? So, university, UNC Pembroke. So state government, they opened this university for a long time, but they still have capacity plan. We have strategic plan every 5 years, 10 years, even 3 years, right? When the board of trustees, right, or the high level manager level of the university chancellor, provost, dean, they make their capacity planning. Okay, need to first answer this question for this university. What kind of capacity will lead in UNC Pembroke? Before answering this question, you should first answer the question, what's the demand as a university, right? Otherwise, because we match demand with supply, well, if we don't know what exact demand, how can we know our supply? You should first answer this question, right? What is the demand for this university? A university, what we call the demand? Enrollment, students, right? Number of students. Can we go more details? Just number of students?
Places to stay,
Place of the
like dorms,
dorms.
apartments.
Oh, that's a great capacity. In fact, for demand, I would say
Yeah.
number of students is not the best measure in my opinion. I think it's credit hour. You think about some university, two universities, they both have 6,000 students. If one university, every student take only 2 classes per semester, the other take 4 classes, there's a huge difference, right? Because the credit hour is double. So if we only count number of students, it can be biased. That's my opinion. Because really matters is how many students in the classroom, right? Right. Credit hour. So credit hour, we are require your faculty, staff, library, dorm, lots of things, right? And as Dylan said, okay, if we know the demand of students or credit hour, well, we have to design for dorm. Well, dorm is really depends on how many students will stay on campus, right? And anything else for capacity? Parking, yeah. I hate that. Yeah, that's the reason I never do that, but this semester, sorry about that. One class, I'm late like 8 minutes. Parking is really bad. Yeah, I never complain about parking after I came to UNC Pembroke because when I was in Purdue, wow, you have fights for the parking place. That's the reason in Purdue, some students, is a fraud. Because A permits in Purdue only can be purchased by faculty, staff, or at least postdoctor. And the student you can't gets A permits, but some students really want to get A permits, so gets from the postdoctor or some staff, selling a higher price. But here we don't worry about that. But until this semester, I really worry about that. Right. So parking. Anything else? Capacity.
I was gonna say they sell more parking passes than there's parking spots.
Yeah, you mean the reserve parking? Or you mean parking?
In general.
Yeah, that's right. But it's true for most universities. Trust me. In Purdue, Well, I don't know how many pipe. I think like ratio is at least 1/2. So you have to fight, well, because you know that not just one spot for one car. There are so many cars. If you're too late, you are too late. It's the same. Parking is always a problem. Any other capacity for the university?
Number of degrees offered.
Generally, I think this is good. This is output. I would say that, right? Do you think it's output? Because it's not related to the equipment or people or space. It's output degrees. If you don't have people, you don't have the curriculum, you can't get that, right? So I would say it's like kind of output of capacity. Anything else? Just dorm, just parking lots. You can open university.
The size of like the cafeteria.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's no.
Yeah. Well, we can see student focus is different with faculty. I would say the first is the size of the building, right? Size of the classroom. And you guys focus on size of cafeteria, so it's like your daily life is cafeteria. Right? Nobody care about classroom. Just kidding. I know you care about. Definitely size of lots, right? Your dorm is also size. Gym, right? Gym, gymnastic. Our swimming pool is pretty small, right? So, yeah. So right, and cafeteria, of course, right? Classroom, building. Oh, that's the reason we have a new building for school business, because it's really hard for us with this building to recruit more students, more faculty. When I have interview here, I can't imagine this is a school business building, right? Because if you go to most school, you will see that. So the business school have the best building. This school the university can be very poor, but it's always true. For most universities, business school have one of the best building. But UNC Pembroke, others faculty are not here, right? So we're in school business, right? Also not in school business, right? So, what can we? This should belong to some other department or other school, but this is belong to school business. Hey, that's okay. We'll change very soon. But anyway, so that's it. Once you didn't mention that, well, seriously, it's not important for you. It's us, right? People, faculty, staff, all the related people, right? To provide the education for the student, provide support for the student. Well, so I think that we cover most part. You can see it's not easy. It's not easy for the university, for any organization, to think about the capacity. Right? So that's the reason they have to plan very carefully. How much is needed to match demand? Well, that's really hard to answer. Let's say, I heard about projection about UNC Pembroke. Let's say they think about by 2020 we will have student enrollments 8,000 to 9,000. Now it's like 6,000, 6,500, something like that. So you can see let's say we increase 20% or 25% of our enrollments or credit hour. But it's not the same ratio for each part. For example, faculty. If you increase 25% students, usually, do you think we need a 25% faculty increase or not?
Yes.
Yes? Exact 25 or similar? If we have 25 more students, do we need a 25% more faculty?
No, not 20, not 25.
Yeah, probably.
You said 3,000.
Yeah, I mean, 25%.
Oh.
Yeah, 25%, yeah.
I mean,
What?
Well,
25%
it
increase
depends
of the students.
You don't have to, but it depends on
And
what
then my
student
question is that,
Yeah, you're gonna
faculty
need more.
ratio you want.
yeah,
Yeah, you're gonna need more.
faculty
It
increase, do you
depends
think?
on, well, it depends on what the faculty student ratio you
Yes,
want to keep.
If you want to keep the same ratio, it can be close to 25%.
Right.
It can be close, but usually still lower than 25. The reason is that you have more students, you can switch the sessions and make each session more efficient than before. For example, this semester I'm teaching Sunny Hills, so I have to drive from here to Sunny Hills this afternoon. Oh, so Monday is always very tough for me. So I teach 6 to 9 in Sunny Hills Community College with only 5 students. Well, that thing is definitely we lose money. University doesn't mean, right? University lose money for opening this session. You 5 students is not a break-even point. We have to analyze. I think it depends on the class, depends on degree or graduate degree or undergrad degree. But usually, and also students have some scholarship. But usually about 12 to 15 is break-even point, which means if your student enrollment in one session is less than 15, probably you lose money by opening this class. Well, definitely here we have more than 50. But wow, the community college they only have 5, so it definitely is the problem. But if we increase the enrollments, well, hopefully also increase in the Sunny Hill Community College, they have 8, 10 students, so it's much better. And another thing is that for many big universities like NC State, UNC Charlotte, if you have big students, size, you probably will increase the, how do you say, the class size. From now we have capped 30 to 40 to 50. Students from China must be very familiar with that, right? 100 students in one classroom. That's pretty normal, right? The same in Sweden.
Yeah,
Yeah.
200 is not.
200? Yeah. So I think, at least for UNC Pembroke, I really like this part. And students usually take advantage of that because our faculty-student ratio is very low. It's very low. Okay, so that's really hard to answer. And also cafeteria, parking, it's not the exact same ratio. Even you have very good forecast for your student enrollment, but it's still very hard to determine each part of capacity you want to increase or decrease. Time. Long-term forecast is very inaccurate. So you tell me, okay, you say UNC Pembroke will increase students by 25%. You need to tell me when will it happen. If it's happening in 2018, 2020, 2025, it's a huge difference. Because it's really hard, okay, you have 8,000 students in let's say 2018, and really hard, we can change a lot for faculty, for staff, for cafeteria, for dorm, even for parking lots. It's really extremely hard. But you tell me this increase will happen in 2020 or 2025, we can do a lot of things to adjust the demand change. Related question, definitely first you want to consider cost, right? You want to match your demand, match your students' demand, but the cost is very important too. Benefits and risk. For example, we have discussed the situation you can buy some advanced machine, have some temporary worker, or do outsourcing. Each method to change your capacity has the cons and pros, right? You have to analyze the risk. Sustainability. Well, sustainability is a very hot topic in academia and also industry. In all the fields you have heard about sustainability, whether we are sustainable. Well, one thing we have heard about is like global warming, right? Global warming. If global warming, the whole Earth, the whole world can't be sustainable, right? Come back to the company, right? So it's also very important. Well, for example, we have discussed, right? If you have a demand increase, you can either buy a machine, have some permanent employee, or temporary worker, or even do the outsourcing. The sustainability for these four choices are totally different. If you buy a new machine, it's very sustainable, right? That's your own property. But the problem is that it's very expensive, right? Well, you have permanent employee, it's also very sustainable. It can be also a little bit expensive for long term. Temporary worker and outsourcing, it can have sustainability problem. Especially like outsourcing or temporary, they don't want to come, or they say, okay, I don't want to accept your outsourcing contract anymore. So it can be a problem, but it can be cheap, so it's a trade-off. Okay, the next one is, what is change at one time or through several small changes? The long trend in business is the second strategy. We want to change it step by step. Don't want to invest $1 million machine one time, and then you don't know because the market change frequently. Or maybe you increase, you know that increase in 3 years, but it can decrease in another 3 years. So if you invest a big amount of money just one time, it can have problem. Supply chain, okay. Because now when you talk about supply parts, it's not just your company, right? It's related to your supplier. And related to your suppliers, supplier. We can write this forever, right? Supply. Right? So it's a very long supply chain. When you want to match your demand with your capacity, and many times nowadays not your capacity, right? Definitely you need to increase capacity, right? But it really depends on your supplier. So you have to think about that. Let's say you increase the capacity, you buy a new machine. Your supplier can't provide the material. They say, okay, I don't expect the demand increase, so I don't have the material for you. And your machine is idle, it's waste of money for you. So we have to think about that before change any capacity. Question, comments? It's good? Clear? Okay. So capacity decision impacts ability, organization to meet future demand. Cost matters. There is a major factor of initial cost. Fixed cost. You buy a new property, right? Buy a new machine, hire people. Right? So long-term commitment of resources can definitely improve or decrease your competitiveness, affect the ease of management, very important and complex due to globalization we're discussing. 50 years ago, it's just your decision. But now, for most companies, it's not your decision. If it's not globalization, it's kind of decision related to some company in South Carolina, some company in Tennessee, some company in Florida. Right? Need to be planned in advance because it's consume a lot of money and other resources. But that's the reason capacity planning is we call it a strategic capacity planning. You have to do it very carefully. It's not like next week's forecast. Okay, you have mess up some forecast model in just 1 week, right? But capacity planning, you mess up several years. I can tell you, it's really painful to change capacity. For example, I live in Fayetteville. Well, that's the area, right? Usually that's a Foot Lion, but it's closed the store 1 year after I moved to Fayetteville. You can imagine how expensive you close one Foot Lion store. It's very expensive. It can definitely threaten your business. For example, I heard about like 2 years ago, Lowe's Food. Do you know Lowe's Food? Lowe's Food, right? They didn't do very well, right? They closed so many stores in RTP area. It's really threatened whether they still can survive in this business. And the reason they do okay, at least in Sandy Hills area, they open another Lowe's Food, right? So it's very important for you to think in advance, right? Because later you want to change, well, that's too bad. Okay, now we go to some math or some measurements for the capacity. The first is the design capacity, which, well, by definition, you can see is the maximum output or service capacity, right? Operation, process, or facility is designed for. The second measurement is called effective capacity, which is the design capacity, is maximum output, minus the allowance such as your personal time, you can't work 24/7, machine maintenance, machine also can't run for 24/7, and the scrap. The last one is what we are most familiar with, actual output. What is your actual daily output? So we have to measure our capacity performance. First, we should measure our capacity in units, right? Not in dollar or some other. You think about it, we can measure, you buy units, how many units of products, like the, how do you say, this soft drink can provide, how many bottles can produce per day. You can also say how many dollars, right, of this drink I produce per day. Why we shouldn't measure by dollars? Why? What's the problem? If we measure our capacity by dollars, by the money, what's the problem?
Fluctuations in price.
Fluctuation in price, definitely, right? The price change. Anything else? Inflation. Yeah, inflation long term, that's true. Anything else? Even the day, let's say 1 day. Why you don't have any real price change in that day or inflation? That's 1 day, but still have some problem. If you measure by dollar, look at dollar, D-O-L-L-A-R. What's the problem? If you measure by dollar.
International. I mean, other currencies.
Yes, because globalization, right? Well, you Coke, right? You produce Coca-Cola in all different countries, right? The currency rates changing every second, every minute, right? Your price can be the same in China, in Japan, in US, in Great Britain. It's the same. Let's say Coca-Cola, but the problem is not about your price. It's not about inflation. It's currency. Consider globalization. Many companies sell products all over the world. The same thing, right? Also, their cost is by different currency. If you measure by dollar, well, that's very subjective. Nobody can understand that even after 10 days, right? So that's the reason we measure by the units is objective. But still, it's really hard because the size of the 1 cup of Coca-Cola or bottle very different for different countries. Usually like 450 ml, right? It's standard, but it can change over different countries. But it's still much better to measure by dollar. So I want you to keep that in mind. It's not just capacity. When you do the accounting job or do the record by yourself later in the future, especially you work from middle-sized company, they want to go to the international market, try to build the habits at the beginning. Okay, keep the record on units, notes by donor. You can convert it easily to the donors of the money you have, but has a raw record by units. Two useful definition of capacity, okay, we have discussed is the design capacity and the effective capacity. Now, some measurements. So, first we are discussing the actual outputs cannot exceed the effective capacity. So it's always less than the effective capacity. Efficiency, the first measurement of capacity is called efficiency. So efficiency is equal to numerator is the actual outputs divided by the denominator, which is effective capacity. Right. So it's always between 0 and 1 because the actual outputs is less or equal to the effective capacity. Okay. Well, the second measurement is called utilization. Is the actual outputs divided by the design capacity. Because design capacity is the maximum. It's much larger than the effective and also larger than actual output. So it's also between 0 and 1 for the utilization. So these two numbers is always a percentage. Always percentage. It's clear? Clear for you? Always percentage. Oh, let's have the simplest example in this class. I don't think any other example in this class can be simpler than this one. So let's talk about transportation capacity, right? So the design capacity is 50 trucks per day, right? That's, we can have 50 trucks if we send all the drivers, right, to work that. We have 50 trucks. But the truck need maintenance, driver need to have like rest time. So usually the effective is 40 trucks per day. Then our actual output is in fact only send out 36 trucks per day. So, question for you guys: 1 minute. Give you guys 1 minute to try to calculate the efficiency and the utilization. Good enough, right? 1 minute. You already got the formula on last slide. Efficiency output is actual divided by effective capacity. Utilization is the actual divided by design capacity. Everybody gets the formula?
No.
You don't know?
Nope.
Okay, guys. So this is, you can write this down: 50, 40, 36. 50, 40, 36. Too simple, right? Got it? Yeah, 0.9, that's right. Yeah. Divided by 2. So you don't need to calculate it. That's great. So you are good at math? Have you begun your homework? Not yet. Sure. Okay, everybody got the formula, right? Okay, here is the. Well, this is really elementary school. Right? If you understand the definition, it's really elementary school.
Definition is elementary school.
Young, you know that it's just make people laugh by answering this question. But I will ask you a question: what's the problem? Can you solve this problem?
Can I solve it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do that. I'll wait for you.
If I get it right, I can leave.
If you want, you can leave now.
Okay.
As I said, everybody's free to leave. Yeah, great. 2 marks, right? Good. Everybody guys, right? Didn't guys have
36 divided by 36.
Look at that right there.
50 divided by 40.
Yeah.
That's mental, man.
That's good. That's good. Okay, I think most students have done what they have. So, Yeah. You should remember that. It's always should be
It's
percentage.
effective over
It should be from 0 to 1. And feet. If you get something bigger than 1, that's much.
Yeah, I was thinking
Yeah, because talk
get the
about.
formula.
Okay. If you get something bigger than 1, you should know automatically it's wrong. Because its measurements, it should be the percentage. Right? Okay, let's do that together. Well, I need some elementary school student. I'm just kidding. Yeah, college student to help out to solve the problem. The first one is the efficiency equal to what? Any volunteer? 36
90%.
divided by 40, so we get 90%, right? Utilization is effective capacity divided by the design capacity. It's equal to what?
36.
Oh, sorry, it's actual. Sorry about this. Actual divided by
36.
50, right?
Yeah.
So you guys, 72%. So what's these two mean? Okay, the efficiency means is given you already have some constraint, right? For example, you can't run 24/7, right? You can't run 24/7 for trucks, for truck driver. So that's the effective capacity. Given your effective capacity, what's your performance? It's pretty good. In this one, it's pretty good, 90%, which means well, you have the constraint. You have truckers, truck has maintenance, truck driver need the rest, so 90%. But you come back to utilization, not so good. The reason it only has 72% is because there's a gap between the design capacity and the effective capacity. Well, we can improve that because do you need such a long maintenance time for truck? Do you need maybe they need to sleep for truck driver? But if the gap between these two is small, then we can increase our utilization. So you can see that's two measurements. The first measurement is given current condition, what's your performance. The second tell you what you can do in the final way. This can be 100%. It's perfect work, right? But we know that you need maintenance, people need to sleep. So, it's some two predictions. So that is the capacity plan. So when you are doing the capacity, I want you to pay attention to these two, especially design and the effective. You want to think about why my effective capacity is much lower than design. It should have a gap. Because machine need the maintenance, people need the rest. But you can do, for example, people need the rest. You have different shifts, right? For example, when I work in Amazon, in the warehouse, right? They have 3 shifts or 4 shifts. Usually in the daytime, they have permanent employee. Usually in it's also very small town. Cause Campbellsville in Kentucky, when I work there, there's so many people working there. Right? They need some money and it's really minimal payments for a little bit higher. But they work in the daytime, right? They have kids to take care of, right? Or go something. But in the night shift, they have students. Most of the employee in Amazon, as that place is a student. They have a Campbellsville University in Kentucky, like you guys. Work very slow. When I was there, I was amazed. I found their night shifts working efficiency much better than the daytime. That means their temporary worker efficiency is much better than their permanent. And then find that's the reason. Demographic. The college students working even in 2 a.m., 3 a.m. is still very energetic and working very efficient. So if you can do something like that, you can definitely increase your effective capacity very close to your design capacity. And then automatically your actual output will increase. Okay, that's the end of today's class. I will see you guys. Sure.